Hi, this is Dr. Dan Ratner, and today I am joined again by Daniel. This is part 3 of our 4-part consultation, and this is where we go over the power column. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally. Welcome back, Daniel. It is a pleasure to see you again. Always a pleasure, and this whole process has been a pleasure, and I just want to continue to express my gratitude to you for being willing to show the vulnerability, to talk about what's going on, and to go through this process with me. So thank you again.
Well, I appreciate you having me again and keeping working with me.
So we have some work to do to get you what you need, but that's the goal here. And what I want to do is first just review where we're at a little bit. So we did the emotions column, and what that is we've developed most of the themes that you're going to need when it comes to the onset and uptake of symptoms. This whole thing is to give you a map of your mind-body experience and some idea of what to do about it. So these themes give us part of what you're going to need to do about it. When you have an onset of a symptom, you're going to go straight to the emotions column. You're going to look at those themes, see which ones apply, and try to find the very specific way that it's manifesting for you. And when that happens, if you get it right, the symptom diminishes right there. But that's just if it's an emotions column issue. Then last week we covered the doubt column. The doubt column's always going to still need work, even after the consultation. You're going to need to look out for doubts, but the goal is to teach you how to articulate the doubts and how to get them answered. So we've done some of that. What you're going to find is in the 4th session next week, we're going to concentrate especially on the doubt column. That's going to be a huge amount of the work because it requires all that articulation, and then we get back to it, and we got to get those questions answered. Some of those questions are going to be answered in the session, and others are going to be answered a little bit after the consultation as you send me a text or an email, and we continue to get those questions answered. But today we'll do the power column.
Okay.
And one of the great things about my system is, once it's explained a little bit, it actually is pretty simple. There's the 3 columns. These are the columns that cause the issues, and we know why. The onset and uptick of symptoms is caused by emotions, the chronic conditions are caused by doubt, and the plateaus are caused by power. Okay. So if you've gotten to a place where you've gotten some relief, but not all of it, which I think is part of where you stand, if I'm understanding correctly, then that means that plateaus are playing a role. Now, I know you don't have the relief you need, even close to what you want yet.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and always correct me if I get something wrong. What I think does not matter that much, except as information to you.
Right. I'm definitely I think I've been at a plateau for quite a while. And I think the chronicity that I'm having, I think with your system is definitely from doubt and power, as we've gone through it and continue to go through it. But it's definitely, I think that's where I am at this moment in time.
Okay. And we'll assess that also at the beginning of next week. Once we've gotten through all the columns. So let's talk about what the power column is. The power column is it's about your relationship with you and whether that relationship is going well. And I would say that out of all of the people that I see, the percentage of people that are having a relationship with themselves that is not going as well as they would like is 100%. So you are not alone in this, but our goal in this is to try to get that explained, try to get that shown, what's happening in your relationship with you, and then to talk about what could happen differently. So I'm going to highlight something first, and then we're going to do the first exercise that I like to do in the power column, which I think is very important, which is called developing the core narrative. Well, we're going to get into that in a second. But power exists in your relationship with yourself, whether you're feeling good or not within yourself. That's a way of defining power. And I should say this, that word, power, it sometimes doesn't work for certain people. They want a different word. Sometimes people want to call it strength or confidence, or being at peace. In some ways, these are all the same thing. My definition in the way that it worked for me was to feel that I could be powerful because I felt not powerful so much of the time. So that was where the resolution came for me. We don't have to use that word, but men tend to gravitate towards the power idea pretty well. Sometimes I have to rein them in and be like, no, that's not power. That's just dominance. That's not the same thing. So power can come in your relationship with yourself and whether you're feeling good. It can also come in relation to other people. You may find that you have certain relationships where you're out of power, where it feels like they're in control. They're the ones who can judge you, but not the other way around. Not that we want to be judging people. And then there's power in relation to your symptoms. And I would say this, everybody who comes to see me does not feel powerful in relation to their symptoms, at least not powerful enough. So we're going to address all three of those areas and get those highlighted and articulated. But the first step is the core narrative. So I want to explain what the core narrative is. And by the way, I'm throwing a lot of information at you. So if you are confused by any of it or you got questions, your job is to talk freely. You can say, I don't agree with what you're saying. Anything you want is fine.
Okay.
Any questions so far in what I'm saying?
I think I'm following pretty well.
Okay. So the core narrative is, it's like an emotional mantra that tells us who we are, because otherwise we'll forget. or we might feel that when I'm in this situation, I'm this way, or when I'm in this situation, I'm this way. The core narrative is who you are all the time. And so what it is we're going to try to locate the central part of your emotional experience, the defining part of your emotional experience. And the way that it goes is it has to be connected to at least one broad theme. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 broad themes in there. But generally you can condense it into one basic idea. Mm-hmm. A broad, high-stakes theme. High stakes meaning it means a lot to you. A lot is at stake for you in whether that's going well or not. And then we also want to connect it to a specific life experience that you've had, not even one necessarily, but maybe some general ones that capture why that specifically was central for you. And the last part of the core narrative is, what are you going to do about it? Now, I'm going to guide you through all of this. So the first thing we're going to start with is the broad theme. We're going to try to locate what that is. For me, I can tell you it was about, I didn't know this at the time, and I only developed the core narrative through understanding this. But my core narrative, as it turns out, related to the fact that not having a father in my early years and not having a father in some ways at all changed my feelings of validity about myself. I didn't realize it, but I didn't feel that I was as valid a person as anybody else. So I was walking around life feeling not as good as other people, and that is not a powerful feeling, to say the least.
Right.
So I can give you a sense of the types of issues that could be your core narrative, but ultimately we have to come up with it together. So what I want to do is brainstorm here. You may already know, or you may have no idea, and either way is fine. It's my job to get you there. What would you say is the central core broad theme that dominates your life?
I believe right now, I think validity is some of that, but just it's kind of, I'm not 100% sure how to describe it, but it's this longing to, I don't know, maybe be, I guess, valid in people's life, maybe cherished, maybe loved to the degree to which maybe I feel I deserve, or that maybe I didn't have to the level that I wanted when I was younger, and I did all these things to try to get that, and it didn't work out. So the more that it didn't work out, the angrier I got.
Okay, so as always, everything you say is helpful information because it's like you're putting out material that I can then shape and polish. So I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing in that. I'm hearing that maybe the central broad theme is I didn't feel loved enough or recognized enough for me, and that hurt tremendously. Does that sound right?
Oh no, I mean that's perfect. Yes, because it was just like this longing that I desired, and it was just no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. I just didn't feel that it was enough for me.
Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, I'm feeling a lot of empathy for you about that. It's, you were a little kid who just wanted to be loved. And I'm not saying this as any kind of interpretation of your parents or criticism of anybody, but I'm just feeling for you like that sucks. That's not okay. So let's write this down.
Okay.
And this is all a rough draft, but I didn't feel loved or appreciated enough for who I was. And this hurt tremendously and left me. Now let's think about what the next phrase would be. Left you doing what? Did you doubt your own value, or was it more you felt valued? You felt that you were valuable, but that you were so angry that it wasn't seen? What was the central part?
I think it was. I think I was. Maybe it wasn't that I wasn't seen or heard or understood. Um, I I think that's kind of the direction maybe that it probably should go. I think I was just angry because I wanted more than what I was getting.
Let me ask this then. How did you understand that though? And you may not have even thought about it this way. Did you blame you for that, or did you feel like the world is a terrible place? What was your explanation for it?
I think I blame myself for that. As if I couldn't. There's something wrong with me that I couldn't gain that attention or respect, and maybe the only way to get that attention would maybe to be the one that acted out.
Okay,
Or does that make sense?
it makes perfect sense. So now I'm thinking back to the sentence we have going so far. Can you read back to me what we have so far?
I didn't feel loved or appreciated enough for who I was, and this hurt me tremendously.
Okay, I would put a comma and then say, but it also left me feeling that this was my fault. And every time it was repeated, it felt like confirmation of that fact. Now, I need to ask you, you're the one who knows this. Did we get it right? Does this feel like it encapsulates you?
So what was that? What was that last part you said? Every time it was repeated.
Every time it was repeated, it felt like confirmation of that uh, failure in myself.
Yes, I mean that's huge because I just felt like I never with even in my own eyes could meet up to the expectations or to where that maybe I thought my parents wanted or I was always trying to meet the standard, which seemed to always disappoint them. Well, in my viewpoint, and then also there's the frustration that hey, I'm never going to be good enough to meet their expectations and love.
Okay, now I said that we need to tie it to something specific. And maybe that is the specific thing. Maybe it was that you felt in particular that you couldn't meet the expectations your parents had. Does that feel like the specific, or is there some other key specific variable that we need to tie in?
No, because I think that was what I was in in hunt for majority of my young life, and then into my young adult life was there was these desires, I think, that maybe they had for me that maybe I didn't necessarily want to go that route, but they may have reminded me here and there of what they thought I should be doing, and that reminder of what they thought I should be doing just kind of left me frustrated. Like, man, there's nothing I can do for instance, would be, I think there was a desire and I had it initially was desire to go to medical school, but I didn't go. I ended up going the mid-level route. And so every now and then I would be asked, this is in the middle of my training, when are you going to medical school?
Oh, wow.
And so it's kind of like, man, I'm not, it's like, I'm not going to medical school, I'm not. So it's, well, what else can I do? Or what else can I say? But it was like this, I always felt like they were disappointed, or though not overtly in that they would say they were disappointed, but there's like this undertone or, of expectation that I wasn't meeting.
Okay. So first of all, that's very painful. And I hate that you felt it was your fault, and that's something we're going to work on. But let's jump back to the sentence that we have going, because now we need to add in the specific. Read what we've got.
I didn't feel loved or appreciated enough for who I was, and this hurt me tremendously, but it also left me feeling that this was my fault, and every time it was repeated, it felt like confirmation in myself. And I think I kind of lost train of thought right there and thinking about that, but I think you kind of referred to like failure, confirmed failure or something to that degree.
Yeah. Read the last part again. I want to see if I can get this in shape for you.
Yeah. And every time it was repeated, it felt like confirmation in myself.
Of that failure in me.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm actually gonna. I often have a different way of doing it with each person.
Okay.
Normally, I try to keep it to 3 sentences, but I think rather than making the first sentence like a, some kind of dissertation,
run-on sentence forever.
Yeah, that's Charles Dickens sentence. We're gonna instead, and we can. We could edit this, we could get it down, but we just want to get the thoughts down first. So the next sentence is going to be, this was particularly true in feeling that my parents were perpetually disappointed in me and that there was absolutely nothing I could do to win their approval. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. Now again, when I say this, I am not saying it in judgment of the people who are your parents or in judgment of parents who are out there.
Yeah.
But within the context of you, we've got to be able to hold on to how hard that was and how much of an impact it had.
Right.
So that's why we write down the sentence. That way we can tweak it as needed. The next part of the sentence is going to be, or the next part of the sentence, what I mean is the next sentence would be, the next part of the core narrative is going to be a more positive viewpoint on you, on that whole thing. So for example, I know that you felt that way, but do you think it's right? Do you think that that's your fault? And I want you to answer truthfully. There's no right answer here.
I guess in some ways I think I do, because that it was my fault because I didn't do, because I think I had made initial plans to do that, to go that route and do the things, but I just kind of backed out of it because.
Okay. Right. But here's the thing. Before we can even write this sentence, I need to say some things to you. I'm going to tell you how I think about this.
Okay.
And again, it doesn't matter what I think, except to the degree that it's new information for you. The way you turned out to be, you didn't have any ability to control it, and there's nothing wrong with you. If you weren't appreciated, that is that is not your failing. That's their failing. I just want you to see if you can hear that.
Mm-hmm.
It's true for anybody. You were just a little kid. What did you really do that didn't deserve to be seen? And then what ended up happening is the more they didn't approve, the more you disappointed, the more you gave up. What were you supposed to do? So what I want to tell you is you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything weird. You didn't do anything bad. You did what most people would have done in that same situation, which is you recognize there was no point here. And so I need to ask you, is that sinking in at all? Do you
Yes.
understand what I mean?
Yes. Yes. I mean, to hear that kind of brings up emotional,
Of course.
sensations and those kind of things.
Well, tell me what you are feeling about it.
I don't know. To hear somebody say that makes me feel, somewhat appreciated, and to know that it's really not my fault. I mean, that's maybe what I've wanted somebody to say for a long time, to just see me for who I am, and not something that I didn't become, or who I didn't end up being. I mean, that it just brings up brings to the surface some emotional pain, I guess, but also to hear that, just brings some calm too at the same time.
Well, I am right about this. The kid in the situation is never wrong. The kid is just asking to be loved. And it's not hard to love a kid. I mean, adults do have problems that get in the way, but they are their problems. You were just a good kid. There's absolutely nothing you needed to do differently, and there's nothing you could have done differently. The parent's job is to love you for who you are. And that didn't happen. And that's not fair.
I guess the question in that is that, what do you do with the fact that they wouldn't see that as, I don't think that they could muster that within them to see it that way.
They're not going to. When we get to the action steps and we go to the power column action step, we're going to help you see that you get to live a powerful, good life where you love you. Mm-hmm. Instead of them. We're not going to get it from them. That's like getting blood from a stone. But we can get it from you. Because what's ended up happening is you have taken on their viewpoint of you.
Yeah.
This is why it's power column work. Because in relation to them, you are continuing to give them the power to define who you are. And they're totally wrong about who you are. They always have been. So, power column action steps, I'm going to help you see how do you reclaim this? How do you tell yourself, the real version of me has nothing to do with what they think. They don't see me. So the fact that they don't see me means I don't need to take their word for who I am. So this is going to take some work. It's not like this just instantly happens. But we lay out the ideas of the power column, and then you work at it.
Yeah.
And the basic gist is they don't know anything about you. Anybody who didn't see you doesn't know anything about you. Think about who you are as an example to this podcast's community. You're a total hero. You're the first one who stepped up and said, I can do this. And there's a ton of love pouring in for you about this.
Yeah, I mean that's been good. I mean this is kind of what I wanted to do, and it's not for fame or anything like that at all, or it's just a desire. Like I think it's ingrained in me to help people and want to come alongside of them and talk with them and just to see if my journey can help others. And I think that's where I wanted this opportunity to get out here and work with you like this.
But I think that's great and very well said. But we see you. That's who you are right there, who you just said. See, that first sentence of the core narrative, that's who you were in relation to your parents. But what we just talked about is who you are in relation to the world that appreciates you. So let's move on to that next sentence then. Here's what I would say. Something along the lines of, who I really am is someone who wants to do good in the world, cares about other people, is generous with my time and emotion, and doesn't want anybody else to experience. Sorry, I'm rushing through this.
It's okay. Yeah. We may have to go back to that second sentence because I think I lost it.
Read me what we got so far.
Because I think as we, and the interesting thing about this is that as you put this out, the emotions that these sentences it brings about and it fills your mind, and then you can't even, the emotion fills you, and then it's like my pen just doesn't want to work. It just stops.
Right. That's okay. We'll go back and keep doing it. So what do you have so far?
I said, who I really am is someone who wants to do good in the world, care for other people, generous with, time and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where.
And doesn't want anyone else to experience themselves as a disappointment. And we're going to need to edit down this core narrative. This is very typical. We do a draft of it, and it's longer than usual.
Okay.
Now, I want to ask you, can you see just how valuable you actually are? Because what I said there, it's entirely true.
I think at the moment, I can't 100% grasp it. And maybe that's something that will develop, happen over time in doing this. But I think when you've gone so long without seeing yourself for something that you desire or something that you feel that, maybe is this, not good person and very, very low on yourself, it's really hard to, kind of. And I know it will take time, but...
Well, it'll take time, but also the second half of the power column work that we're going to do in a second is going to help you understand why it has gone that way. And when that starts to sink in, you maybe get to it more. So regardless, we have a sentence that is about the central hardship you've had. Then we had a sentence about the specifics. Now we have a sentence about who you really are, which I completely believe is the core you, much more than that first version. It's my job to convince you of that, but I will.
Okay.
So then the next part is what are you going to do about it? And you won't know how to do this right away. But I think your job is to never again betray yourself and let yourself view yourself in that first sentence sort of way. But learn to, I use this phrase a lot, be fiercely in your own corner.
And I love that phrase, by the way. Uh,
Me too. It's but I'm glad you do. Yeah, tell me more. What are you thinking?
no, I for so long, through this, when all this really started over the last 5 years, I've not been in my own corner at all, and to see where that is possible now that I can be in my own corner and navigate this and have some control over it is very comforting, because up until this point, I mean, I would say honestly that I had, I mean, I was out of gas, out of fumes. There's nothing, no control at all.
Yeah. It's a very key phrase. You're going to learn to be fiercely in your own corner. You're going to learn to control the narrative of how you think about you. And it's not going to happen today, in all likelihood. But over the course of not even that long a period of time, I'm going to help you keep redirecting yourself to this positive view of you that is far more true than that other one. That other one's not true at all. I mean, it's true in terms of what happened,
Right.
but it's not true in your belief system about you.
Right.
You're not a failure in any way. You don't see it yet. But that's the power column, is to remember you have a choice of how you're going to view yourself. And the choice is always to choose to be fiercely in your own corner and to be as powerful as you can be on your own behalf, because you've suffered enough.
I know.
All right.
I'm done. I want to be done suffering.
Yes. Well, you're not far away from it. Because once you're at peace with yourself, you won't be suffering, emotionally or physically. We've got all the information that we need, and I'll keep you at it. So, do you feel like we have that last sentence in place, though, or do we need to kind of write it better?
No, I think that's that part about not wanting anybody else to experience this disappointment. I think that's. I mean, I think that's. I don't want to have anybody else suffer. Like I have. I mean, I think that's huge. That's a huge, powerful statement.
Yeah. Well, we're going to help a lot of people with this, but one of them is going to be you. So now we're going to shift into talking about just outlining the power issues of your life.
Okay.
Okay. So first we've got power issues with the self. What are the things that you say to yourself or experience in yourself that make you feel unpowerful? Now, one of them I already know is I'm a disappointment.
Okay.
And in what ways? Here's where we get specific.
I'm a disappointment in that I allowed things to get this far gone, as far as physically, and what it's led to as far as my employment, and the things that has happened with my family because of it. I mean, I think the list could go on, but
Right.
but
Okay. So how about this? In the power column, it's different than the emotional themes.
right.
So what we want to do is phrase it in terms of why it is disempowering. So I would say when I connect to feeling disappointed with myself, I take away my own power.
You said I feel disconnected with my own power.
I would say you disconnect yourself from your own power.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I want to help you see that there's an active role you can play in that and be like, wait, I'm talking to myself as if I'm a disappointment. I am taking away my power right there.
Yeah.
And now just jot down the various areas. You can just one word, parenting,
Okay.
job, letting the symptoms get to a certain point, which I'll I'll be in your corner more than you are about that, and say that you didn't get here on your own at all. Okay, so that's one way where power is reduced in your relationship with you. When you blame yourself for things, that's another way that the power goes down. And you're going to have a choice about this after we lay this out more. I want you to recognize that when you blame or criticize yourself, it diminishes your power.
Okay. And I totally see that.
Here's another one. When you question your reality or let another person's view of reality dominate you, that diminishes your power. Is this making sense in terms of like, okay. So what are the other ways that you think you might be diminishing your own power?
I think, that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if I'm stuck in all those other issues that I can't really. I don't know if it's just more of this constant self-negative thought processes.
You just hit on something. As usual, you think that what you're saying isn't gonna make certain value, but it always does. So you just said this thing that made me think, what you're saying is when I'm criticizing myself, I am failing to empathize with myself, and that diminishes my power. So we're already, like, the power action steps are all going to flow from these statements.
Right.
When you're not empathizing with yourself, you can say, wait a minute, I have a choice to. What have I been through? Who am I actually? I'm a pretty good guy. Why am I doing this to myself?
Right.
And some people might then blame themselves for doing that. And I'll be like, nope, okay, we got to empathize with that part. So this gives you some baseline of the ideas of your power dynamic with you. Do you see how it can work that, in any given moment, you might be criticizing yourself more or less. Maybe in a given moment, you're not criticizing yourself so much and you feel better. When you criticize yourself, the power goes way down. When you doubt your reality, the power goes way down. When you think maybe my parents had a point about these things, your power goes way down. Being fiercely in your own corner is, you don't do it halfway.
Right. Well, that's like, for instance, like with this power, with disconnecting your power with your interpersonal relationships with my own family right now, like I tend to infer what they may be feeling or thinking about me, and that may not be reality at all, but that's just the vibe. They have emotions, they have facial expressions, they have all these things about them that make them unique. But I think I at times, my wife will say, you have no idea what I'm thinking, and I'm not actually not thinking anything about you at all right now. But you seem to think that I'm mad or upset with you, or
right.
Okay, and it's not true.
This is a perfect lead into the next part of power, which is power in relation to other people. So now we can say another way that you diminish your own power or power gets diminished is I often interpret other people's facial expressions, tone of voice, response to me as if it is validating a negative view of me. Now, again, take notes however you want. Put it in your own words, because I don't want you to look back and be like, well, he said this, but I don't know what this means. So anything we've got to tweak for your words or how you do it, go ahead and do that. But I think What we want to think about is that in any interaction you have with people, whether it's a real-time interaction or an interaction in your own mind, you can either feel powerful and valid or not powerful and invalid. And I think in that situation, there's varying degrees of it, but there's some at least slight feeling of, I'm not powerful. This person can level me with a look.
Yes.
And I don't blame you for that. That comes out of traumatic experience or not feeling valued all those years would lead to that. But what I want you to do in that moment is to recognize, okay, I am actually giving my power away to this person. I'm imagining what they think about me, and I'm thinking that will determine my worth. So we can learn to wrestle the power back away from these people that we've given it to. I think about power dynamics with other people when I'm ordering a sandwich, when I'm doing anything. I have it in my mind, am I feeling powerful right now? And I don't mean that like I'm going to go be aggressive. That's not power. It's really about, are you feeling good about yourself? So if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're thinking, oh, they think what I'm thinking is stupid. What you want to do is think, why am I giving so much power to them? What do I actually think about what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I like what I'm saying. And then you can return to a sense of power. So there's all these ways that we give power away to other people. Judging it by a facial expression is one thing. Or maybe they say something to us about ourselves and we think, I don't think that at all. If we're fiercely in our own corner, we don't think they're right about that.
Yeah, because that's something that I do know is that I walk around now and we've talked about it before, and that as I've progressed and gotten better, I feel like people are always judging me. I think it's just a natural tendency of where I'm at. The people are, judging me. Well, why is he up here walking around jogging when, he should be sick in bed or something, something to that degree. And it's just this weird dynamic that I have. Like somebody's, and really it is, there's probably nobody around that even cares.
And one of the power action steps would be to intervene with yourself there and say, they don't know what I go through. Just because I'm jogging around right now doesn't mean I'm fine all the time. I get to decide what I think, not them. So funny, I was saying this and my hands started hurting. This is the thing. We get these mind-body experiences. When it went away the minute I acknowledged it, but I don't know what that was. It's like maybe it was like a fist where I was angry at all the times that had happened. But, our bodies are talking to us and we got to listen. And your body is actually telling you, you're a good guy. You have been wronged. You've been given an idea of yourself that doesn't fit with reality and isn't fair. And then you're perpetuating it in these power dynamics. And you get to decide you're not going to do that anymore.
So when you deal with people that have, I mean, I'm one of them, but the guilt and shame aspects of that, where do you find that you give yourself or gain the power that you need to get past like the things like the guilt and the shame and those kind of things, those emotions?
I talk about science and logic when it comes to doubt. Well, in this case, it's logic and empathy.
Yeah.
Because the reality is you won't feel that way about yourself when we do the power column work the way we need to. And of course, this session is about how to get you the information on the power column. But then after these sessions, you go and do that work. You may ask me, wait, how do you do this? Or what would I say to myself in this situation? So I continue to help out with those things. But ultimately, you are going to continue to think about this whole idea of power until you can recognize, oh, I can actually control this. I can say, no, I'm not going to give away my power there. No, that's not fair. No, I'm not going to say that about myself. You start to change it by recognizing you're doing it.
Yeah.
So this is a chance to look at the power dynamics and see that this is real. This is really happening. You're giving away your power at certain moments, and it's important that you would stop doing that to yourself. And I have strategies to do that. We're going to get to that in the action steps. But the basic gist is you get to decide, are you going to live a life in that old core narrative way, where you think you were a disappointment and they were right to think that way about you? Or are you going to be powerful and say, I will never live that way again. I am not going to do that to myself. At base, that's what the power column is. I'm not going to do that to myself anymore. I'm not going to do it with myself. I'm not going to do it with others. And I'm not going to do it with my symptoms. So let's spend a little bit of time on the symptom part, the power with the symptoms.
Okay.
When the symptoms come crashing in and you have doubts, it's not just doubt column work. It's also power column work, because yes, you have your doubts, but you also can feel like the symptoms are in control of me and I'm never going to get out from under them. That's an unpowerful statement in relation to the symptoms. My feeling in relation to my symptoms is I am like a vampire killer, and these symptoms are going to run screaming when they see me coming. That's how I've crafted this for myself. I didn't feel that way at the start. But what I came to realize, it is important to bolster yourself in that way. To say, I'm going to feel that way. Maybe you don't yet. I mean, I know you don't yet. But you can. As you master doubt, your power can go up. Wow, I knocked out that symptom. These symptoms better start to watch out.
So you're saying like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but so as you for instance, like you just said, I had something in my hand start acting up.
Yep.
So you didn't exactly know what it was at that moment in time, but you just basically in your mind go, so what? Who cares? Kind of thing. Or
it's even more than that. I've gotten to a point where I'm like, not only so what, but I'm like, that's interesting information. What are you telling me? I can take care of this. I'm not worried about this at all. So, I mean, look, I'm telling you, I've gotten there over time.
Right.
But you can get to this point, and one of the things I want to invite you into is the idea that you can become every bit as powerful as me in this in a very short span of time, because you're getting the right information. There's no reason you can't do this too. We can come to be dominant over those symptoms. And having that attitude towards it helps. But to do that, you need a couple things. It's the columns. You need to know your emotional column so that you can tell, well, what's happening. Because in that moment where the hand was hurting, I thought emotionally. I was like, what is this? So I knew basically what it was about. I pinpointed it, it went away. That was an acute onset of a symptom. I just used the emotions column right in front of you. So, but doubt is the other thing. You have to bring the doubt down. And power, you got to bring it up. It's a somewhat simple viewpoint that requires some logistics and important specifics. But that's the bottom line. So we're going to wrap up in a minute here. But what I'm thinking is with the power column, you use that core narrative to remind yourself of who you are and what you've been through.
Okay.
And what you're going to do about it. You don't have to achieve that yet. That's aspirational. You're going to work towards it. But now the work comes in recognizing where you haven't felt powerful, in what ways, and then recognizing you always have a chance, every single moment, to decide, no, I am going to be powerful. I'll give you a small example. Let's say you are afraid of public speaking. Well, being afraid is not a powerful experience. Facing that fear and going ahead and doing it, that's a more powerful experience. Now, I'll grant you, if you get up there and you're totally freaked out and you feel you made a fool of yourself, that's not a powerful feeling either. So
right.
It's not just about doing it. It's about what goes on inside you when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, not only am I going to do it, but I'm going to remind myself, I'm a good person, I have some good things to say, and the people out there who will appreciate me are worth it. And the ones that don't, that mirror what happened to me when I was a kid and throughout my life, I don't care what they think anymore. So you have a chance to address the power in you. Now, I know you're going to need to know how, and that's more in the action steps part of things. But what we've done today is laid out the basics of your power dynamics with you, with others, with your symptoms, and we got that core narrative down. So do you have any questions for me about this? And we'll, of course, talk, as the week goes on.
It's just interesting because as we were talking, you were talking about power and things that happen, and I can feel my shoulder tightening up, tightening down, and it's almost like there's something saying like, no, you don't have any, you won't get there. And it's the most bizarre thing how your body talks like that.
That's right.
In situations. I mean, I had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman that kept on talking and talking and talking. And I was like, I do not want to be in this conversation anymore. And my body was erupting with all these things. And I don't know if it was something, just feeling bad about myself and what we were talking about, or I just needed to run because I didn't want to do it anymore. And be that person that can say, hey, and I need a break, I need to walk away for right now and be powerful like that. And that's probably, looking at it now, is probably what it amounts to, is that I needed to be powerful in that moment and say, hey, it's nice talking to you, but I got to run.
Right. And see, and there are ways to do it that aren't off-putting to the other person. They don't have to be aggressive, but you can recognize, I mean, sometimes you're going to need that, but sometimes you can just say, I hear what you're saying. I want to listen more, man, but I got to run. But in your own mind, you're like, whew, thank God I didn't allow myself to be dominated by that person talking over me all the time.
Yes.
So, and that's just a small example, but the more you do that, the more powerful you will feel. And the shoulder was expressing just now, Daniel, I don't think you're allowed to do it. Yes, you are. And that's what power is about, is you say to your body, I hear you, but I got this. I actually can be powerful. There's nothing to worry about here. I can learn to be powerful. I'm just going to make the powerful choice here. So there's lots to discuss here. When we meet next week, we're gonna run through some action steps. The emotional action steps that we'll touch on will probably be the shortest of the two because there's so much out there on emotions, but there's not nearly as much on doubt and power.
Okay.
Then we'll spend some time answering your actual doubts with science and logic.
Okay.
And we'll get as far as we can with that. And then we're also going to spend some time on power action steps. After that, we'll have some ongoing interaction. We might even have a session or two down the road as a tune-up or whatever. But we're getting you that system, and we keep honing it until it becomes a system that you know how it works and you know how to move those levers. You know how to bring down doubt and bring power up and understand your emotions. But we have a good map going here. This map describes you as a mind-body person very well. We may need to tweak it, we grow it, edit it, but we've got the start of it. And I appreciate you so much for sharing this and trusting me with your emotional life and your physical experience. And I look forward to continuing.
It's been a blast. I've really enjoyed, working through this, and it's been very helpful.
I'm so glad, Daniel, and it makes me happy to know you're on the way to peace with yourself and relief from the symptoms. It's wonderful.
Yep. Just already feeling better right now because of the things that you've said, and I appreciate it.
Well, we're going to keep it up, and I don't disappear even after the consultation. You if you're feeling bad about yourself, it's very easy for me to be like, Daniel, let me remind you who you are. Go back to your core narrative. Let's remind you what you've been through. to remind you of that you didn't know that you could choose to be powerful, but now you can.
Right.
I'm very excited about this for you.
All right. Yeah, me too. Thank you.
All right, Daniel, I will see you next week, and we'll keep it up.
All right. Thank you.
What a pleasure to sit with Daniel again. You can see what a pleasure he is just generally, and it's so interesting. It's like he doesn't know how great he is. So this is what I find all the time when I meet with people. They don't know how great they are because they're giving themselves that old narrative that came from someone else and from all the disappointments. One of the things I love about power column work is it really allows me to dig in and do what I would call kind of high-speed therapy. We cut right to the chase of what's going on with the person, and we cut right to the chase of what I think of them, and I help them see why I think that. But the other thing is, and I think you guys saw this in the second half of the video, is we get to talk about what are the nuts and bolts of this? How do we get out of power with ourselves, with others, with our symptoms? And then we start to talk about how do we get back into power? And once we see that it is actually a choice, we can start to practice this. We can start to hone it. Next week, we're going to talk about action steps for all 3 columns. And then he and I will continue working as needed with text communication and whatever it is he needs to smooth that out. We may have a session or 2 down the road as needed, but generally speaking, he's getting the information that he needs. And I'm really excited that you guys got to see that. And of course, as always, very, very grateful to him for his generosity and his vulnerability. And I admire him so much, and I know that comes through in what I show, but I just wanted to say it again. So thank you for watching. Let's keep up these discussions, and I'm hoping these are very helpful for you. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally.